What causes frizz? Well, technically, when your hair grows out of the scalp, it is actually dead. So everything you can touch and feel, hair, any part of your body, if it's out of the surface of the skin, it's technically dead. So this receives no nourishment from the internal of your body, from the healthy food you're eating or drinking, or the healthy food you're not eating or drinking. The only thing that either loves or neglects your hair is the environment around it. So that could be hairstylists, yourself, could be environmental, or it could be chemical. Now, one of the greatest revelations is often people go, oh, my hair feels really dry, I need to drink more water. It's not going to help your frizzy, dry hair. Your hair, though, when it's in that frizzy state, what it's trying to communicate to you is that it is thirsty. However, when you're drinking water, it's not replenishing the moisture stash in your hair. Often your hair will communicate to you that it's thirsty or dry via standing up on its ends and reaching out into environments around it. Think about a hot, humid day. Think about a rainy weather. Think about after you've hopped out of a hot, steamy shower. Quite regularly, you will find in those situations that you will have beautiful little frizzy moments happening all around you. What your hair is communicating then is that it was thirsty and it wanted to grab a drink of moisture. So it drew itself to the moisture molecules in the air around it. So when you see frizz, it's a sign that your hair is thirsty. Now, when we drink water here through our mouth, it doesn't replenish the supplies. So how do we actually give our hair a drink of water? Amazing question. Now, let me take you back a step first. When your body tells you that it's thirsty, it often communicates to you via your lips. Now, often you'll get dry, cracked lips, and you can do one of two things when you have that moment happen. First thing you can do is apply a lip balm. Now, a lip balm is a topical application that does not solve the internal disposition of dehydration. Or you can have a glass of water, which will treat the internal situation and in time will settle the external display. The issue with the first option and putting a lip balm on is as soon as that lip balm's worn off, you still have dry, thirsty lips, cracked, annoying, and you're still dehydrated. And this is where people go really just regularly so wrong with curly hair, is that they're constantly searching for the perfect product or the holy grail or the thing that's gonna, make all of their frizzy, dry hair go away. Well, guess what? That holy grail product doesn't exist. All your hair needs is a glass of water. And today I'm going to help you understand how to give your hair a glass of water. So where does hydration sit in these microscopic strands of hair that are on our head? Now, the first part is called the medulla. It is the central vein of your hair, but as I've just explained, your hair is dead. So once we see your strands of hair, the medulla has either completely dehydrated and dissolved, or it's a crispy-like matter in the middle of your hair. Not important, only had a purpose while your hair strand was growing under the follicle, under the scalp in the follicle. The second part of your hair is called the cortex. Now, the cortex is epic. It's the most underknown part of your hair that exists. It is a sponge-like matter. Visualize, if you can, with me. Sometimes you may wash your car and there's a thing called a car chamois. It's a leathery kind of like sponge. If you can't visualize that, then just think about those really random cheap sponges that sit next to the sink and go crispy and hard when they're dry. Now, we'll come back to the sponge. I just want to talk about the final layer first, which is the cuticle. Now, the cuticle of the hair is kind of like the skin is to our body. It protects and shields all of the organs and the functioning parts of our body. Now, if you have thicker hair, that means you have multiple layers of cuticle. If you have finer hair, it means you have less layers of cuticle. So the best way I remind people or help people understand what that means is when you have fine hair, it often means you have less insurance versus somebody that has thick hair, meaning they have multiple layers of cuticle or a very large surplus layer of cuticle, which means there's more layers that are shielding the hair, protecting the cortex, and keeping all that health internal. Once the cuticle or the surface of the hair is damaged, exactly the same as our skin, if there's a big cut, obviously, you know, infection can happen. With our hair, once the cuticle is damaged, the cortex, or the sponge, is then exposed, opening vulnerability to excessive amounts of elasticity, causing breakage. It can just get to a point of breakage so much quicker without the cuticle intact and in place. So that is the cuticle. Now, the cuticle is what we touch, yet it isn't what determines the health of our hair. The cuticle is what determines how tangly our hair is, and the cuticle is what gets damaged most in the sun or by hair straighteners or heat tools. So those are the things that can go wrong with your cuticle. Now back to the sponge. This is where the real stuff happens. So I'm going to get you to visualize that dry, crispy sponge. All right, everyone's got the picture in their mind. Now grab your conditioner bottle from your shower and squirt conditioner over that crispy, dry sponge. Do you think at this moment that the conditioner would soak in, or do you think it would get trapped on the surface and kind of make it feel nice on the outside but not really soften and hydrate and create a supple, beautiful sponge? Correct. It wouldn't. This is where you could have been using the correct product but with the wrong technique. Conditioner is exactly the right thing, but without the correct technique, you are lip balming your hair every time you're in the shower. So now let's go add another ingredient into the mix. Now I am going to get you to visualize, before you grab that dry, crispy sponge, we mix conditioner and water in our hand together first. Okay, now as I put that on the sponge, all of a sudden, as I've added in the molecule H2O or water, what's happening is now the water molecules are carrying the conditioner deep into the body of the sponge. Now without the water, it felt nice, but it didn't actually fill the sponge. With the water, the molecules of the conditioner were carried into the whole body of the sponge, creating malleable, workable, hydrated, delicious, bouncy, curly hair. Now without the water, you have unmanageable, inconsistent curls, quite obnoxious strands, and hair that is prone to ridiculous amounts of frizz. So here we have a molecule, water, that in my head, before I understood this about curly hair, I would have perceived that if I added water to my conditioner, or I had a really high amount of water in my hair when I started, I would have thought that that would have diluted or weakened the properties of the conditioner. When in fact, the water is the ingredient or the molecule, the composition that can actually carry the conditioner from being a lip balm to becoming a glass of water. Now when you apply your conditioner to your hair in the shower the next time, or maybe you're doing this in a salon situation, I want you to really visualize the sponge on the inside. We're not lip balming our hair anymore, we are giving our hair hydration. Now hydration is conditioner, water, and one other missing part. Can you guess what it is? Our flexi brush. Now, most people have 10 fingers, and as we apply conditioner to our hair, which you will see in our wash and hydration video, when you apply conditioner, most people rake it through their hair and at best use a wide tooth comb. Now, you have just visualized and been explained to what happens inside every single strand of hair. There is a medulla, a cortex, and a cuticle. Now, the cortex is the zone that we're focusing our drink of water. So if one strand of hair on your head doesn't just miss a touch of conditioner, but misses that internal absorption of conditioner and water, we have wet frizz, but we don't know until our hair dries. And this is where people go so wrong so easily. So 10 fingers to spread your hydration through your hair is just not enough. So let me show you our flexi brush. I think there's 132 or 128 bristles on our flexi brush. So the job of the bristles is to distribute the conditioner and water throughout all of the strands of hair that are on your head. Where you have the driest, most frizziest, kind of annoying strands of hair, Focus the most attention there. Then the back of the brush acts as a bit like a massaging paddle. Later on, we're going to explain why some of your hair absorbs hydration easier and why some of it doesn't. But the massaging back on the brush, where the base of the brush sits, becomes like a paddle to really push the conditioner and the water deep into the cortex of those less naturally absorbent strands. Conditioner, water, and a flexi brush are the three things you need to create hydration. That is where everything happens. That is where the health of your hair is encouraged. That is where the elasticity of your hair is encouraged. And that is where your frizz is dealt with, in the shower. Do you know what makes your hair curly, or what makes your friend's hair straight, or somebody else's hair really tight, coily hair? Epic question. When a straight hair strand grows, it grows out of a follicle. We're getting scientific here. It grows out of a follicle that sits directly under the opening of the scalp. Now, in that moment, the strand of hair grows up without any interference, growing a perfect symmetrical circle. Now, when you have a symmetrical circle, that forms a symmetrical cylinder. So when you touch straight hair, it will always feel smooth. Not because it's healthy, but due to the shape in which the strand grew out of the scalp. Okay, it's symmetrical, it's smooth. Straight hair won't tangle like curly hair does, purely because of the symmetry. The cuticle layer can sit perfectly flat, creating no avenues or pockets or little spots where other strands can tangle upon. Straight hair will always look shiny. Reason being is light can reflect off every single surface of a uniform, smooth, symmetrical surface. So the surface area that can reflect the light is far greater, okay? And straight hair doesn't go crazy in humidity or damp environments or certain weather situations. Reason being is because of the symmetry of the shape, that means it feels smooth when we touch it because the cuticle is sitting flat. But that also means that the cuticle is acting like a trapdoor to hold all the moisture deep inside the cortex. Nothing leaks out. Now, when we start talking about textured, wavy, curly, kinky, coily hair, all that differs is the angle of the follicle. This is a controversial word to say, but curly hair is known as a deformed hair follicle. Dun, dun, dun. So instead of follicle upright strand of hair growing out, the follicle grows on some degree of an angle, meaning the strand of hair has to poke its way out and journey its way up to the opening of the scalp. And on the quest to the surface, what happens is that perfect uniform symmetrical circle or cylinder strand of hair. What happens is on the journey to the surface, the shape becomes skew-iffed, pushed into another way, an organic free-formed shape. So it goes from being symmetrical and circular to being oval, kidney bean, half moon, even rectangular on your really tight textured afro textures. Then all of a sudden, let's go to the 4 characteristics. When you touch curly hair, why does it feel lumpy and bumpy? Because you're not feeling a symmetrical shape. You're feeling an organic half moon, kidney bean, bit of this, bit of that, as you run your finger down the strand of your hair. So try not to diagnose health by the feeling. Visualize a girl that has pear-shaped hips. Whether she's sitting at a healthy weight or whether she's 20 or 40 kilos overweight, her body will carry shape a certain way. That's something we don't decide for ourselves. That's something our body decided for us. Our hair is exactly the same. We can't change the surface of our hair. It's how it grew. Curly hair will also always become tangle prone. Why, might you ask? Due to the ununiformity, that means some of the cuticle doesn't sit flat, or a lot of the cuticle doesn't sit flat, depending on how much curl we're seeing or how long the journey was to the surface. So all of a sudden, there's little pockets, little avenues where other strands can get caught in or tangled in. This is just something we can't avoid. This is due to the shape or the curvature of the hair strand. Curly hair will always look less shiny. Reason being, at the top of a mountain you will see sunshine, but in a valley there's always a shadow. So the surface area that can reflect light is far less than that of somebody with straight hair. And the final epiphany about curly hair is curly hair will always go a little bit crazy in humidity. Reason being is due to the ununiformity of the strand, because of how it grew up from the scalp, or the angle of the follicle and then how it grew up, all of a sudden the cuticle doesn't sit flat, right? So that means that the sponge on the inside, the cortex, that we've hydrated, can actually not hold its own hydration. There's always a leak kind of happening. Now, this happens in our bodies all the time. We drink water, we sneeze, we go to the bathroom, we talk really loud and, verbalize and spit little bits of water out. It's continuously happening with our body. However, because our body is all alive, every time we have a sip of water, we're restoring the hydration and the internal workings of our body. Our hair is dead. It is completely left on its own. So when your hair evaporates or sweats or excretes natural hydration out of itself, it has no other place to grab hydration other than the atmosphere around it or the hands that are going to give in the atmosphere around it. The best way I kind of help you remember this is curly hair is always thirsty because it can't hold its own drink. Dun, dun, dun. So don't lose heart here. Understand that this is just a natural thing about curly hair. Hydration is essential. It's something you're going to have to do every single time you go and wash your hair. It's not a sometimes, it's a definite for healthy, hydrated, bouncy, voluminous curls. I also want to go back to a point earlier that I forgot is one of the other reasons that water is such an important ingredient in hydrating our hair is when we think about curls, most people go, oh, I love big, voluminous, bouncy, lightweight curly hair. Now, if I was dehydrated, would I grab a milkshake or a glass of water? I know what I should grab, should I say. So grabbing a glass of water creates a lovely lightweight feeling. However, if you fill yourself with a milkshake, you can get sluggish and weighed down. The same thing can happen with our hair. So if we fill it with too thick or too heavier molecules or compositions or no water, we are going to weigh down our curly hair, which then means we kind of need to put way more product on it to try and create that lovely, voluminous, soft, bouncy curls. So just take a moment, remember the importance of water, conditioner, and a flexi brush to give your hair the drink of water that it needs. Now, across your head, you can have between 4 and 5 different curl patterns. You might ask why and how. All that differs is the angle of the follicle, meaning that some of your hair strands may be very, very tight curly. It's quite common to get them around the perimeter. Or you might have a really densely curly section at the back of your head and flatter curls through the top. Don't lose heart. All that differs is the angle of the follicle. Now, what does product do in terms of hair health? Product is a lip balm. It's a topical application. So product never can restore health to your hair. It can only enhance the finish and the styling of your hair. Now, one of the things I explained to you before was the fact that curly hair is always thirsty because it can't hold its own drink. And then I explained hydration is conditioner, water, and a flexi brush, yet your hair can't hold it. So this is where product, aka a styling gel, becomes one of the greatest moments or the greatest opportunities for healthy hair. A gel-based styler acts as like an elixir, like a cast to seal over the ununiformed cuticle, the compromised, deformed hair strands that we have, to try and hold in the moisture for longer than what yours and my hair could naturally hold on to. Now, the more you use, the greater depth of application and hold factor that you're going to get. But just remember that styling products won't increase the health of your hair. They will help your hair retain the health for longer than what your hair could naturally do it. I recommend that people work with a flexi brush when they're applying their base styler. Reason being, the exact same reason that our fingers are not enough when we're hydrating our hair is 10 digits, thousands of strands of hair. Now, the same depth of focus I wanted when I hydrated my hair is the same depth of focus I want when I'm sealing in the hydration. Otherwise, we're getting inconsistent wear, and we often, blame the product for being a really poor delivery, when actually the application was the thing that was off and didn't create the best results possible. The other super important part about applying a product to your hair is making sure that the saturation of your hair is dripping wet. Now, it's going to feel funny, it's going to feel weird, but trust me on this. When you apply product to damp hair means that some of the hair is wetter and some of the hair is drier. And water is majority gravity led, so often the roots will start to dry and the ends will be heavier with moisture, with wetness, right? So then visualize applying your styler to that. Your styler is going to be crunchier and a heavier application where your hair is drier, and it's going to be a lighter application on the ends, meaning you'll feel like your roots might get crunchy and sticky and the ends might still be a bit too fluffy. So starting with a consistent canvas is going to change your whole styling game, and so important. There you have it, guys. That is the basic education around frizz and hydration. Curly hair. It grows out of a deformed hair follicle, which creates ununiform strands of hair. That's why it feels lumpy and bumpy. That's why it tangles. That's why it doesn't look as shiny. And that is why it goes crazy in humidity. Your hair is always thirsty. It's always reaching for moisture or looking for a drink. So hydration is something that we need to do every time we wash our hair. And what is hydration? Conditioner, water, and a flexi brush. I hope this has helped answer a lot of your questions around frizz and helped you understand a deeper layer to diagnosing or problem solving issues that you have with your curly hair. Love and hydration.